Hello, in this video, let's discuss the basics of digital systems. So if you look around you, most of the systems that compute, which interact with the environment, etc., are digital systems. Now, digital systems offer numerous advantages, the primary ones being ease of design, excellent noise immunity. CMOS provides a very easy way or an easy method to implement digital systems. Furthermore, over the last few decades, the ease in design and the cost reduction achieved due to scaling has led to high levels of integration, leading to this proliferation of digital systems around us. So let's look at a typical electronic system. So generally, what is a system supposed to do? Many a times when we want to automate any system, we want the system to essentially identify if something is out of order. If something is out of order, you want to take corrective steps. Right? That would be something like to implement, say, in a factory, for example. So typically a system consists of a interface with a physical sensor at the beginning. Now what this does is, this sensor is essentially going to produce an electronic signal, a current or a voltage, in response to some physical quantity. Typically, once we collect that analog data is sent to this component, which is known as an ADC or an analog to digital converter, and that converts the analog signal into a digital signal. Basically, that means it converts that analog signal in common parlance into a bit stream of, say, ones and zeros. Now, once this data is available in a digital format, multiple things can be done with that. For example, you can do some kind of processing on it, right? This is where you can make some logical decisions of it, or you can use that for computing some other parameters. We can also store the data, right? For example, if you're looking at real-time usage of certain components in a factory, you want to store the data. Storing digital data is much easier than analog data. Or many other cases, you want to send this information that you've collected over a medium to some other part of the building, some other part of the system. Transmission is another way by which you utilize this data. Once you're done with this data, many a times now you want to take the data and use it to actuate some physical quantity again. So if I want to do an actuation, that is, suppose I want to move a certain motor, suppose I want to start a certain component, this processed digital data then needs to be converted back to its analog format, and that is done using this piece of silicon, which is known as a DAC, or a digital to analog converter. This now gives out an analog output, which can then be interfaced with an actuator to move things. Right? So this is typically how a basic simple electronic system would be designed. Now, what are digital signals? So digital signals are signals in which the information is represented as discrete symbols, right? So information is not a continuum, and which are encoded in ranges of physical quantity, right? So I can call this to be color, I can call this to be temperature, I can call it voltage, current, what you have it. Now, most of the time we deal with two-valued signals, that is easiest to implement. So what we do is we think about information as a 0 or a 1, and these two distinct signals can be then coded up into any sort of information you want. Now remember, signals needn't be only single valued, they can be multi-valued also. For example, I can think about a system where I use 3 symbols, for example, to code up information. Nothing wrong with that. That will still remain a digital signal. Now what happens generally is that when we are looking at this digital systems through a circuit design limitation, circuits tend to be designed much simpler when we have to deal with two-value signals. So therefore you see that two-value signals are most common just because circuit design is easy and they have much better noise immunity as compared to multi-valued signals. Here's an example of a standard. So this is a JEDC standard for a 3.3 volts digital technology. So you see that a 0 or a 1 is coded up in a bunch of ranges of voltage. So for example, in this case, a range from 0 to 0.8 volts will be treated as a logic 0, and a range from 2.4 to 3.3 volts will be treated as a logic 1. So this is what I meant when I said that when you have these two symbols, you normally associate a certain range of a physical quantity with each of the symbol. In CMOS circuits, we mostly use voltage signals, right? So a voltage is normally coded into a range as is shown here. Now digital signals, if you looked at in the previous case, we spoke about ranges for digital signals. For example, at the output, I see that a voltage range between 0 and 0.4 is coded up as a 0, and a voltage range between 2.4 and 3.3 is coded as a 1. However, at the input of a system, any voltage in the range up to 0.8 volts is treated as a 0, whereas any voltage in this range of 2 to 3.3 is treated as a 1. So we'll see why this is important, because this provides a certain noise immunity to the digital system. So let's consider, for comparison's sake, two systems, one an analog system and one a digital system. Let's assume that we have given two inputs, one analog input to the analog system and digital input to digital system. What you see is that the subsequent outputs you get, which are functions of the input signal. Now let's assume that instead of having the actual signal that is going in, this actual voltage value, there is some sort of error that is being induced in the input signal. So typically in circuits, this would be a voltage and this would be some erroneous voltage that is either coupled to the line that is sending the input signal, for example. So what happens in that case is that if you look at the input to the input to the system is no longer this input signal, but that signal contaminated by this error signal. Now what happens in the case of an analog system is that the output, since it dependent on the actual value of the voltage, the output also changes with respect to this new input signal. And so therefore the output is going to track the input. So if you look at an analog system, you see that the output is also tracking the input, right? And that's because an analog system is responding to actual changes in the input signal. Whereas in the digital system, what happens is that the output is unchanged, provided this error voltage is within some specific range of the signal. So this is what I meant by noise tolerance. So in a digital signal, I can tolerate, if I'm talking in voltages, I can tolerate a certain error in the input voltage, and even with that error, my output does not change. So if I'm thinking about a bunch of systems which are cascaded one after the other, what happens is that, suppose I look at the first system, suppose an error is induced at the input of the first system. Because of this rejection of noise present in this digital gate, my output is basically unaffected. So at the output, I have no information if there was error present or not. So the output seems like it would have been perfect without this error present. Now the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes these errors can accumulate. So the other very important aspect of a digital system is that it restores the signal after every operation, which means that this property where the error disappears and you send the VD back to its original intended value, right? So for example, suppose I had coded this input as a 5 volt for a 1. So even if the error was 1 volt, if I've designed this buffer in such a way that it can tolerate up to 1 volt error, then the output here again is going to go up to 5 volts. So every time I pass through a digital gate, my output gets restored, right? Or my output gets sent back to its original voltage levels of high or low. So that, again, this is because there's a certain gain present in the digital system, and we'll look at that when we look at the transistor level design. And so this is another important feature that the digital systems provide. So buffers and restored devices do not exactly guarantee voltages V0 or V1, right? So if you look at a 0, for example, again, I'm going back to the standard. So these standards are generally released by a community to designers. So if you look at the output of a gate, in this particular standard, the nominal voltage at the output can be anywhere between zero point 0.4 and 0, right? What it means that you want to target 0 volts to be the digital 0, but the output can vary between 0 and zero point 0.4. However, if you design this, and similarly if you look at the 1, VOH is 2.4, which means that the output voltage can be any value between 2.4 and 3.3. Nominally, I would want all my output voltages, if I'm having a digital value of 1, then I want all my output voltages to 3.3. But the digital system ensures it will be greater than 2.4. Because we want to design a system that is tolerant to noise, and generally what we want to do is, we want to ensure that even at this highest value, for example, let's look at the digital 0. Even when the logical value of the output is 0, the input should treat it as a logic 0 again, right? That is, this value should be within the range of the input of the next stage so that I don't lose the digital representation of that voltage. And that's what happens in these design standards, is you see that at the input, any voltage less than 0.8 is treated as a logic 0, right? Similarly, if you look at the input high, any voltage greater than 2 is treated as a logic 1. When we design these gates, we design them in such a way that the VOL is less than VIL and the VIH is less than VOH. And then we talk about what is known as a noise margin. And the noise margin has two components. There is a noise margin at the high level and a noise margin at the low level. At the high level, it is given by the difference between the OH and the IH voltages, and at the low, it is given by this difference. Now, just because we have two symbols, which are 0 and 1, doesn't mean that all physical values can just be an on and an off. So we can represent, say, a set of n elements using a bunch of digital symbols, right? And that's essentially known as a digital word, if you will. So for example, if I had 8 values I need to represent, then I can use up to 3 bits. If I had 32 values, I can represent up to 5 bits, right? So by playing around with the number of bits that I can represent my data in, I can map up to 32 levels in this case, right? So digital systems give you the ability to play around with the accuracy of representation. That's a trade-off between the data length, if you will, right? So if you want higher accuracy, you will need to use a larger number of bits to represent the data. The other advantage that a digital system gives is digital logic can compute function. So once, for example, the information is represented as a digital signal, we can use arithmetic circuits, logic circuits, etc. to either give out logic functions or give out arithmetic outputs, right? For example, here's a very simple schematic of a system. For example, suppose I want to design the blower of a cooling system. So I can think about it as having a temperature sensor. Now this is going to be a sensor that takes the analog input of the temperature, converts it to a digital value, and let's say I can break it down to 3 bits. So I represent the current temperature in 3 bits. As a user, I can give a preset temperature. So once the current temperature is available in digital format, this is something I've entered into the system, then I can design what is known as a comparator that compares these two values. So I'm creating a logical function that compares the two values, and I generate a signal from this logic block which goes high or which changes when the current temperature increases as compared to the preset temperature, indicating that the fan needs to be turned on. So it's a very simple schematic of a very basic system. So many a times we use what is known as a hardware description language when we design digital systems. Verilog is an example of one such language. And once the system can be coded in an HDL, then synthesis programs are available which can convert this into a gate level description and eventually map it either to standard cells if you're going to do an ASIC design or to an FPGA. Digital systems provide a lot of advantages when one needs to design a system for use in the field. Primarily those being noise tolerance. So the ability of the system to not be affected by small changes in the physical quantity is a boon. Systems also have what is known as signal restoration. So this enables us to design large systems by cascading smaller systems. So this is known as modularity. Digital data can be used to represent any amount of complex data. So that's another advantage. And finally, you can implement logic and arithmetic very simply using digital circuits. So that provides us a method to modify or to react to a certain digital value or signal. And finally, you want to also remember that storage of digital signals is much easier than analog, and so storage or memory is easier to implement in digital logic.